All right, so we're diving deep into Cant Hurt Me by David Goggins.
Sounds intense.
Oh, it definitely is, but also super inspiring. Goggins went through some serious stuff. I mean, we're talking poverty, abuse, racism.
And then, became a Navy SEAL and ultramarathon runner.
Exactly. Like, how did he even...
That's what we're going to unpack, right? His whole philosophy of turning pain into power.
Yeah, that's a big part of it. He's not a fan of just waiting for motivation,
No. He straight up says motivation is crap. He's all about self-mastery.
So, like, taking control of your own mind and pushing yourself way past what you think you can do.
Exactly. And it all comes back to what he calls the one warrior concept. It's like, we all have this inner warrior, but most of us, we never even tap into it.
Because it's buried under all our comfort zones and fears, right? Yeah.
And Goggins is saying it's our job to dig that warrior out. I mean, his own life is basically a testament to that.
Oh, for sure. Like his backstory, it's rough. I mean, just imagine growing up sleeping on a cushion with a loaded gun underneath because it's that dangerous.
That's intense. It's no wonder he's so focused on resilience and self-reliance,
Yeah, you can see how those early experiences shaped him. Even moving to Indiana with his mom, it wasn't all smooth sailing.
Right, like he had Miss D, this teacher who really pushed him academically, which was great.
But then there was Sister Catherine, who was way more lenient with him. So he's getting these mixed messages.
And then you have this tragic turning point, the murder of the guy who's going to be his stepdad, Wilmoth.
That must have been devastating.
It was. Goggins talks about this buildup of rage ending with him punching a fridge.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's like this need for control that just gets cemented in him, which ties into his whole self-mastery philosophy later on.
So how does this need for control show up when he starts trying to improve himself? I know he talks about struggling in school.
Yeah, he admits to cheating a lot early on, basically trying to take the easy way out.
Avoiding the hard work.
Exactly, until his grades totally tank and he has to face reality.
But he's not actually learning or achieving anything.
Right, and he describes this powerful moment in the bathroom mirror where he has this brutal self-confrontation.
This is where the accountability mirror thing comes from, right? The ritual.
It is. It's this shift from needing outside validation to holding himself accountable. He starts writing down his goals on Post-it notes and sticking them all over his mirror.
To constantly remind himself, right?
Yep. It's all about taking ownership of his life.
So then he joins the Air Force, hoping for a fresh start. But even there, he hits roadblocks.
Yeah, he puts on a ton of weight and starts feeling disillusioned, like he's an imposter.
Hiding his true self under all that weight.
Exactly. But it's also during this time that he starts actively seeking out discomfort.
What do you mean?
Like he starts running in the rain, taking cold showers.
Purposely making things harder for himself.
In a way, yeah. He's realizing that the easy path leads nowhere. You gotta embrace challenges to grow. And then he comes across this documentary about Navy SEAL training, Budlood.
The toughest military training there is.
And he's not scared off at all. He's actually drawn to it, kind of jealous of how much the trainees are suffering.
Like he sees a reflection of himself in their drive to push limits.
Totally. And that becomes his new mission, right? To go from this overweight, disillusioned airman to a Navy SEAL.
Talk about an impossible task.
That's exactly what it is. And he gets inspiration from, of all things, the movie Rocky IV.
Really?
Yeah, he sees parallels between Rocky's underdog story and his own transformation. Even compares himself to Rocky fighting Drago.
Embracing the impossible challenge.
Exactly. So he starts this intense training to get ready for WDs, but even with all that, he knows Hell Week is going to be a whole other level.
5.5 days of sleep deprivation, constant physical challenges, and instructors messing with your head.
Yeah, it's designed to break you down, test your limits, both mentally and physically.
It sounds brutal.
It is, and during this craziness, he meets Freak Brown, another trainee who becomes like a brother to him.
Shared suffering forging a bond.
For sure. But Goggins, he doesn't just do Hell Week once.
He has to go through it again.
Yeah, he gets pneumonia and fails the first time, so he comes back for round 2, and this time he's dealing with a messed up knee.
Pushing through a serious injury.
That's Goggins for you. This is where his idea of the calloused mind comes in. It's like building mental toughness by constantly exposing yourself to pain and discomfort.
So the more you push through it, the stronger your mind gets.
Exactly. He's like, you need those mental calluses to handle whatever life throws at you. And he proves it too. He powers through Hell Week, injured knee and all.
What a willpower.
I know, right? Completing those underwater knot-tying challenges with no sleep and a bum knee, that's insane. But even with all his focus on self-mastery, life throws him a curveball.
The unexpected pregnancy.
Yeah, and it's interesting, he doesn't shy away from his initial reaction. He's honest about feeling conflicted, even a bit resentful.
Shows he's human, right? Even Goggins.
Totally. It's like self-mastery isn't this one-and-done thing. It's a constant process, always evolving.
And life is always going to throw those curveballs.
Speaking of which, let's talk about Goggins and those crazy physical challenges he takes on, like his first 100-mile race.
100 miles. That's nuts.
And of course, he goes into it with barely any preparation.
Yeah, that's about right.
He uses those crazy challenges to push his limits, see what he's really made of. But when he hits those walls and he does what keeps him going.
Yeah, that's what I wanted him.
He talks about reaching into his cookie jar. It's this mental strategy where he draws on past victories, moments of resilience.
So it's like a mental store of all the times he's overcome something tough.
Exactly. He's shifting his focus from the present pain to all those past experiences that prove he's stronger than he thinks.
It's like what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, but on a whole other level.
Totally. And then you have his Ultraman experience.
Yeah.
That's a multi-day thing, swimming, biking, running, crazy distances.
And I remember reading about that incident where he got a flat tire during the cycling part.
And he runs the rest of the way pushing his bike.
No way.
Yeah, pure determination, right. And then he meets this double amputee competitor during the race, further proving his point that limitations are mostly in our heads.
So it's not about your physical abilities, it's about your mindset.
Exactly. It's about effort, pushing yourself beyond what you think is possible.
So after all those incredible feats, Goggins moves into this role as a Navy SEAL recruiter. And that's when he has this realization about human potential.
The 40% rule.
Yeah, the one where he says most people are only operating at 40% of their capacity.
And he's right. We get so comfortable with mediocrity. We have so much more potential, but we don't tap into it.
We're just coasting along.
And Goggins, he's calling us out on it. He's like, look at your schedule, cut out the crap, and maximize your time.
Stop making excuses and step up.
It's a wake-up call to stop settling for less and actually live up to our potential.
And this isn't just about external success, right?
No, it's about pushing those internal boundaries we set for ourselves, becoming the best versions of ourselves.
Aligning our actions with our potential. And Goggins, he doesn't stop at becoming a SEAL. He goes for Delta Force.
Which is even more elite.
Exactly. And he crushes it, too. Masters land navigation, impresses the officers. But even Goggins, he faces setbacks. Like his first attempt to break the world pull-up record.
And that's where the after-action report, the AAR, comes in.
That military technique for analyzing what went wrong.
Yep. It's not about dwelling on the failure. It's about learning from it.
So you treat your mistakes like data points.
Exactly. What went wrong? What could I have done differently? What did I learn?
And write it all down, right?
So you can refer back to it later.
It's like turning those failures into fuel for future growth.
Exactly. And even Goggins, Mr. Mental Toughness, learns from his AAR and smashes that pull-up record on his second try.
It shows that even the best of us, we need to analyze our failures to improve.
And Goggins, he's all about constant improvement. Always pushing himself, never settling.
Which brings us to this surprising part of his story. The stretching thing.
I know, right? The guy who thrives on pain and discomfort is overlooking something so basic.
He's so focused on pushing through those limits that he doesn't realize his tight muscles are holding him back.
It's like sometimes the simplest solutions are the ones we miss.
And by being open to this new idea, he has a breakthrough.
It shows you've got to be willing to challenge your assumptions, no matter how basic they seem.
We've covered a lot here. Goggins' journey is intense. But there are so many valuable lessons in there.
For sure. It's not about becoming Goggins. It's about finding the parts of his philosophy that resonate with you and applying them to your own life.
And that's what we're going to dive into next. So we've talked about Goggins' story, his philosophy, but now the big question is, how do we actually use this stuff in our own lives?
Right. It's not about becoming David Goggins 2.0.
Yeah, we're not all going to be running ultra marathons and doing ice baths.
Exactly. It's about taking the parts that resonate with you and figuring out how they fit into your goals.
So where do we even start? We've got the accountability mirror, the cookie jar, embracing discomfort. There's a lot here.
Okay, let's start with that accountability mirror. You mentioned you struggle with procrastination, right?
Oh, yeah. Big time.
Well, this could be a game changer for you, but it's got to be more than just, writing stuff on a sticky note.
Yeah, I've tried that before. Didn't really work.
Right. It's got to be a system. Remember those SMART goals we talked about?
Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound.
Yep. You got to make those goals concrete. So instead of just writing be more productive, it's like finish that project draft by Friday at 5 p.m.
And break it down into smaller steps. Right?
Exactly. Then you can visually track your progress, like using a whiteboard or a calendar, checking things off as you go.
I like that. Seeing that progress can be motivating.
Oh, for sure. And don't underestimate the power of saying those goals out loud, too.
Like talking to myself in the mirror.
Sounds silly, but it works. Reinforces those goals in your mind.
All right, I'm willing to try it. Now, what about embracing discomfort?
We're not talking ice baths here. It's about finding those areas where you shy away from challenges, those tough conversations you avoid.
Like at work, I know I should be more assertive. I hate speaking up in meetings.
Perfect example. So how can you push yourself there, but in a manageable way?
Maybe commit to sharing at least one idea in each meeting, even if it feels awkward.
There you go. And then, build on that. Next week, aim for 2 ideas.
It's about making it a consistent practice.
Exactly. The more you do it, the easier it gets. And you realize, hey, I can handle this.
Now, the cookie jar. Love that concept, but how do I actually use it?
It's about being intentional, about recognizing those moments where you've been resilient. We all have them.
But we tend to downplay them, right? Or forget about them.
Yeah, we focus on what we need to improve, not what we've already overcome.
True.
So celebrate those wins, big or small. Write them down, share them with someone.
So I can create this record, this reminder of my own strength.
Exactly. And when you're facing a new challenge, you open up that cookie jar and bam, instant motivation.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, the 40% rule. Honestly, it feels kind of overwhelming when I'm already juggling work and family.
I get it. It's not about being a productivity robot. It's about being mindful of your time and energy.
Cutting out the wasted time.
Yep. Look at your schedule, what's draining your energy without any real benefit. Social media, TV, those commitments you don't actually want.
Yeah, the commitments. I'm terrible at saying no.
It's about setting boundaries. Start small, build up your assertiveness over time.
So I can protect my time and energy to focus on what matters.
Exactly. And lastly, the after-action report. I know you said you tend to avoid thinking about your failures.
Oh, yeah. It's way easier to just move on, pretend it never happened.
But you're missing out on valuable lessons. The AAR is about turning those failures into data.
So instead of beating myself up, I should analyze it like an experiment.
Perfect. What went wrong? What could I have done differently? What did I learn? Write it all down.
Create a record so I can learn from it in the future.
Exactly. You're turning those failures into fuel for growth.
This has been amazing. I feel like I actually get Goggins now. And I have some real tools to start using.
That's what it's all about. Finding your own version of self-mastery.
It's not about being superhuman. It's about pushing yourself further than you thought possible. And I think Goggins' biggest message is that we all have that potential.
We absolutely do.
So the question is, what's your impossible task? What challenge are you going to embrace to unlock that potential? That's something to think about. And for everyone listening, what's your impossible task? What's going to ignite that inner warrior and lead you to a life that truly matters? Until next time, keep pushing, keep growing, and keep diving deep.